Lando Norris may have just lost his biggest advantage, because the FIA uncovered evidence no one was supposed to see. A hidden system. A technical breach. And now, his entire test performance is under investigation. But here's the twist. This mistake might hand Oscar Piastri a head start in the World Championship. Because while Norris's data is getting erased, Piastri's is becoming the blueprint for McLaren's season. The test was supposed to be secret, but the FIA saw everything. And what they found could change the outcome of Bahrain before the race even begins. This is not just about lap times. It's about legality. And it's about which McLaren driver the team now trusts more. Stay with me, because once you hear what the FIA discovered, you'll never look at this team the same way again. Barcelona. 5 days. No cameras. No press. No live timing. Just shadows. And secrets. This wasn't a showcase. It wasn't for the fans. It was a test. A private one. Designed to prepare McLaren's title defense. Without distractions. But what happened behind those locked garage doors has now triggered one of the most serious FIA investigations since 2021. And the driver at the center of it all is Lando Norris. It began on Thursday. Oscar Piastri was running laps in the MCL 40. Everything looked normal, until suddenly, it wasn't. McLaren shut the car down. Mid-session. No explanation. No warning. They pulled it back into the garage, closed the shutters, and went silent. What we know now is that something inside the fuel system triggered a red flag. McLaren called it a glitch. But internally, they treated it like a threat. That same car, the one that just got stripped down and rebuilt, was handed to Lando Norris the very next day. And he went faster than anyone expected. 83 laps. 1 minute 16.9. Second overall on the timesheet. Ahead of Piastri. Ahead of Russell. Right behind Hamilton. But here's where everything breaks apart. Because when the FIA requested post-session telemetry, they weren't just looking at lap times. They were looking at fuel flow, deployment strategy, energy release under throttle. And what they found did not match what McLaren had declared. A discrepancy. Small, but clear. And now, Lando Norris's test run is officially under investigation. His data? Invalidated. His setup? Compromised. And his status inside McLaren? Suddenly not so untouchable. Because the only clean dataset left belongs to Oscar Piastri. McLaren never wanted this to go public. But once the FIA got involved, it was out of their hands. And now? The spotlight isn't just on the car. It's on who the team is about to trust. Because with Norris's data wiped from the official record, everything the team built around him has collapsed. The test program? Compromised. The sim model for Bahrain? Corrupted. The performance run everyone was supposed to study, replicate, and build race strategy on? Gone. Which means McLaren needs a new reference point. Fast. And there's only one option. Oscar Piastri. His car didn't trigger any FIA review. His telemetry is clean. And more importantly, his feedback is now the only one they can legally use to prepare for round 1. Think about what that means. All the simulator work. All the setup decisions. All the tire modeling, energy deployment, cooling predictions. They all now have to flow through Piastri's run. And inside the factory, you can feel the shift happening. Piastri's side of the garage is getting more hours, more resources, more attention. Not because of favoritism. Because of necessity. They don't have a choice. His data is the only data that survived Barcelona. And in a team like McLaren, where performance decides priority, this changes everything. Piastri isn't just the backup anymore. He's the foundation. And Lando Norris? He's starting the season from behind, with a car he no longer understands, and a setup built on someone else's driving style. Ferrari was the first to move. Just hours after the FIA flagged Norris's data, they filed a quiet request. Access to the compliance bulletin issued during McLaren's test. That's not routine. That's strategy. Because if McLaren's deployment system was over the limit, even by a fraction, Ferrari wants the rulebook in their hands before the stewards do. They're not looking to protest. Not yet. They're looking for leverage. And Red Bull? They went deeper. Sources inside their garage confirm that Verstappen's data team ran side-by-side comparisons between Norris's throttle map and known hybrid limits under the 2026 regulations. And what they found didn't add up. One specific spike in Sector 1. Out of Turn 3. A surge in torque. Too sharp. Too early. It suggested that Norris's car deployed electric boost outside the FIA mandated zone. And that's not just a breach. That's potential grounds for race day monitoring. Red Bull hasn't said a word publicly, but internally, they've already told the FIA. They expect transparency in Bahrain, because if McLaren rolls out the same deployment curve again, it won't be quiet the next time. And then there's Mercedes. Their move wasn't loud, but it was smart. They reached out to Alpine, McLaren's engine partner, to confirm whether any shared systems could explain the anomaly. Why does that matter? Because if Mercedes can prove this is a McLaren-only problem, they remove any doubt. And more importantly, they box McLaren in, isolate them, pressure them, force them to redesign, while everyone else moves forward. After the FIA's warning landed, McLaren didn't make a statement. They didn't need to, because the shift inside the team was immediate and undeniable. At first, it looked like standard damage control. Isolate the issue, update the system, reset the simulations. But then, something subtle changed. Oscar Piastri was given priority simulator time. That's rare, because until now, Norris has always gone first. First in the sim, first in race runs, first in upgrades. But not this time. When the post-Barcelona modeling began, Piastri's run was treated as the baseline, not just for cooling and tires, for the entire energy deployment strategy in Bahrain. That sent a message, one that everyone in the garage understood immediately. Trust had shifted. Engineers who once split time evenly between drivers were now spending more hours on Piastri's car. One of Norris's longtime mechanics, quietly reassigned. Data analysts were pulled from dual driver setups and refocused on fine-tuning Oscar's mapping. Not officially, not out loud, but the behavior said it all. Because in a sport where milliseconds decide championships, no team can afford to build around uncertainty. And right now, Norris is uncertainty. His data is under review. His fuel system is being rebuilt. His fastest run is no longer usable. And the engineers? They don't have time to wait. They need reliability. They need repeatability. They need direction. And they're finding it in Oscar Piastri, the quiet driver, the clean driver, the one who asked no questions, raised no complaints, and just delivered legal, stable, FIA-approved laps. And now, without politics, without ego, without asking, Oscar Piastri is becoming the default leader inside McLaren. The FIA had just flagged his run. His lap time was invalidated. His data was off limits. And his engineers? Already shifting focus toward Oscar. During the Friday night debrief, the atmosphere was tense, not confrontational, just cold. Everyone in the room knew what had happened, but no one was ready to say it out loud. So the drivers spoke. First Piastri, then Norris. And it was in those moments that the real shift happened. Piastri's comments were calm, measured, team-focused. He talked about fuel adjustments, telemetry learnings, long-run potential. Then came Norris, and all he said was this: I drove what I was given. 6 words. That's it. But for McLaren, it was a thunderclap. Because that sentence? It wasn't feedback. It was distance. It wasn't ownership. It was a wall. He wasn't defending the car. He was separating himself from it. And in a team that built its comeback on unity, on trust, on shared responsibility, that kind of statement hits hard, and it leaves a scar. The engineers picked up on it instantly. Not because they were angry, but because they'd heard it before. That's what a driver says when he no longer believes the system is working for him. And when belief disappears, performance follows. Bahrain is less than 2 weeks away, and McLaren has a choice to make. Not publicly, not in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, in strategy meetings, in simulator schedules, in development cycles. And that choice is no longer about who's faster. It's about who's ready, and who they can trust. Because Norris, despite his raw pace, will arrive in Bahrain without a baseline. His Friday test run was wiped. His deployment map? Flagged. His power unit settings? Under review. Which means the car he'll drive in round 1 will be a version he hasn't tested. A version built on someone else's feedback, on someone else's feel, on Oscar Piastri's data. That's not just inconvenient. It's destabilizing. Because while Norris tries to recalibrate, Piastri will be driving the very car he already knows. The car he helped fine-tune. The system he kept inside the FIA limits. And that's where the real advantage lies. Not in top speed. Not in lap time. But in familiarity. In trust between driver and machine. In the clean, uninterrupted rhythm that every great opening weekend requires. And the engineers? They know this. They feel it. They've already started assigning tasks accordingly. More post-test sim hours for Oscar. More Bahrain strategy simulations on his model. More tire degradation runs with his throttle curves. Because when a team enters the first race of a new regulation era, they don't gamble. They optimize. And they lean on the data that won't get them penalized. Right now, that data belongs to Oscar. And unless something massive changes in the next 7 days, McLaren may be forced to do something unthinkable. Start the season with their #1 driver playing catch-up to his own teammate. Every team has a breaking point. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's subtle. A silent realization that the original plan no longer works. And at McLaren, that moment is happening now. Because this isn't just about Norris losing a test session. It's not just about fuel flow, or a software anomaly, or a flag deployment map. It's about something much deeper. Control. Since the start of their resurgence, McLaren has been Norris's team. He was the face, the focus, the future. He survived the rebuild. He led the charge back to the top. He delivered them a world championship. But now, for the first time, McLaren has a plan B. And it's working. Oscar Piastri is no longer the rookie. No longer the quiet backup. He's the driver with the clean data, the legal setup, the internal momentum, and the leadership team sees it. Andrea Stella isn't emotional. He's practical. And when one side of the garage delivers stable, usable, regulation-safe telemetry, while the other side starts throwing blame in debriefs, the decision begins to make itself. You don't drop Norris. You don't demote him. But you start asking different questions. Who gets the final upgrade package? Who leads the development path? Who becomes the foundation for long-term performance? Right now, those questions are no longer answered with Lando by default. And Norris knows it. He's still the champion. Still one of the most gifted drivers on the grid. But he's now driving into round 1. Not as the undisputed leader of the team, but as a driver under pressure, from within his own garage. And that shift? It's the kind that doesn't just affect one weekend. It affects how the season unfolds, how the team invests, how the politics play out, when the title fight gets tight. Because if Piastri starts strong, if he outperforms Norris in Bahrain, even by a fraction, then this won't be a driver battle. It'll be a power transfer. And once that begins, it's almost impossible to stop.